Kia ora, welcome to Under the Checkered Flag, MotoGP edition. I'm your host Kate, and we're just going to jump right in.
It is Kate, Kelly, and Pozza, and we are here after some amazing racing at Aragon. Before we do jump into that racing, let's just get some housekeeping under the way. We'll start with the fact that, to absolutely no one's surprise, Firmin Aldeguer has now been confirmed to be racing for Gresini Ducati in 2025 and 2026. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, we all knew that he was going to a Ducati. That was confirmed absolutely months ago. Um, I have to admit, I did originally think he was going to go to Pramac, but then it was announced that Pramac would move to Yamaha as kind of like a satellite team, and then it just became completely obvious that he was going to go to Gresini. Um, Happy with the move. I can't say with his recent results that he deserves it, but yeah, I'm just happy he's going somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with Kelly. I thought it would have been Pramac at first, but then it became extremely obvious that it would be Grassini that he'd be going to. I do sort of agree that on recent form, you can sort of ask the question on whether or not he deserves it. I feel like personally he could have used another year or two in Moto 2, but alas, we're not the ones that make the decision, so we just have to hope he does well next year.
I agree with you both that I think a bit more time in Moto 2 may have suited Vermin, especially because his form is very questionable, but we'll definitely be coming to that later, no doubt. Another rider that has now been confirmed as moving from Moto 2 up to MotoGP is Somkiat Chantra, who will be going to Idemitsu LCR Honda. I love this. Like, I absolutely adore this. Obviously, I'm a massive LCR fan, have been since Casey Stoner days, and I love Somkiat Chantra. He's one of those people that's just always smiling, and the fact he's moving up with Ayagura, his good friend, that just is super wholesome to me. I'm quite gutted for him that he will be on that Honda, because as we know, it is far from the best bike.
I love Chandra. Like you said, he's always smiling. He's a really happy guy. So you can't really hate him. Actually, you just really can't. Like you said, LCR Honda, bad bike. It's really not a good bike, and I'm sad that he has to be the one to experience that. But I'm just happy he's moving up, and like you said, with Aigura, besties forever. Both on pretty mid bikes, so I'm excited to see if you can do something with it. Like maybe the LCR will kind of like improve. This is me being extremely delusional, but I'm hoping that the LCR will like somewhat improve in performance and we can actually see something of him.
Yeah, Honda is sort of in a position where they can sort of try just bringing in new riders and not face too many consequences if it really doesn't work. I'm just more sort of interested in the role that Taka Nakagami is going to play next year. From what I've heard, he's sort of going to be a middleman between the factory back in Japan and the actual racing team. So hopefully that can sort of help out the Honda situation and get them back to being even somewhat competitive next year.
Taka Nakagami's deal is super interesting to me as well. And it does sound like they don't have anyone really communicating between the racing team and the factory. So creating that role and having Taka step into it is really exciting and does give me hope that Honda will improve. The final bit of housekeeping is the fact that Brno is going to be back on the calendar for 2025 and a number of years after that. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this news, purely because I don't trust it with all the calendar change ups we've had this year. But how about you?
I'm not sure how I feel about it because I have to admit we all know I'm newer to this than you are, and I haven't actually seen this track in like action live. But from what I know about it, it's a decent track and people are excited about it. So I'm excited to see if it can produce something exciting for me. But yeah, I wouldn't know too much. But from what I know, people are happy, so I'm happy too.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that they can actually go racing at a track that they've announced this time. Obviously, Brno has historically been a pretty good track throughout the history of GP. Just a nice layout, sort of flows into one corner, sort of flows into the other really nicely. I quite like the track, so hopefully they can go there next year.
And that is our housekeeping done and dusted. We're going to start with Moto 3 because we saw for the first time Anthony Rueda win his first Grand Prix, and he became the 400th Grand Prix winner in history. I thought it was really wholesome that he dedicated and mentioned his good friend Hugo Milan, who lost his life at the track that Rueda now won at. And things like that I always find so touching. And I'm so happy that KTM got a win this weekend. In P2, we had Kelly's favourite, Colin Vire, and in P3, we had a maiden podium winner, Luca Lanetta, for SIC 58. Great racing, surprising result after Alonso had such a dominant weekend. But what did you guys think of this race? What stood out to you about it?
Genuinely, just like the wheel-to-wheel racing got me. I was like, I don't think there was a moment where I was actually calm at all. I'm really happy that Lunetta got a podium. I really am. It's just he had a shot and he took it, and I'm so happy for him because I think there's been a few chances for him before, and he just never got it. So it's a nice thing. It's just a nice feeling to see him on the podium because we might not see that again for a little while. Um, Alonso off the podium, I have to admit, did shock me. I was like, oh, damn. But it was a good boost for Colin Vire in the championship. He's now jumped from fourth to second, so good boost for him. Um, and then Rueda getting his first win. I mean, knowing Paz, if anyone knows, huge Rueda fan, so I'm sure we'll hear something from him. But as much as I did want Colin to win because he did lead the race, I'm so happy that Rueda got a win. Like he deserves it so much. His best finish was second, and like he's just missed out on the win so many times. Sometimes just not even his own fault. So I was really happy. It was a good podium. I'm happy. Good punch for Colin. Rueda win. Lunella podium. It's really good.
Yeah, I was really happy that Jose managed to get his first win knocked off. Probably a little bit overdue, which is sort of echoed by the fact that the commentary was saying Akiayo was having a bit of a strong word about him, not sort of putting in the results they'd expect. So it's good to see him get that first win out the way. Uh, Honestly, I'm not really surprised that David Alonso dropped off the podium. I did say this during the race, but I feel like he's not the sort of rider that is really great at sort of pulling away and maintaining a gap at the front. And we've seen this a few times before, mainly in America earlier this year, where he tried the same thing and managed to hold on to the win, but he had riders closing in on him so much near the end. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good race. Sort of classic Moto 3, bit close. There was still some gaps, but the sort of closed up towards the end at the front. And yeah, I thought it was good action.
So let's talk about Moto 2 because P2 was Tony Arbolino and P1 was a stunning performance by Jake Dixon. And I don't think there's anything else we need to mention about Moto 2 at all.
If you want me to start, then I might as well. Just going from the front, it was a good win from Jake Dixon. Sort of held the lead throughout pretty much the whole race, only got challenged by Tony Arbolino a couple of times, who finished second. This is obviously the part Kate wanted me to take, but Dennis Onchu got his maiden podium in Moto 2. Only his second race back from injury, and he's already sort of looking like he could start challenging for podiums, top fives in almost every race, which is just kind of mental. Getting closer to top rookie, I think he's only 6 points off of Senna Agius in the standings. Looking further down the field, Alonso Lopez finished fourth, sort of seemed like he cooked his tyres a bit towards the end, and Manu Gonzalez finished fifth, as he normally does.
Yeah, Moto2 overall, decent race, shockingly, but Jake Dixon win his little speech at the end as well when he won actually nearly made me cry. I don't even know why. There wasn't even like a massive reason for it to, but it was just so sweet and heartfelt. I was like, oh my God. His little dance as well. I think his dances are like my favorite part of the Moto2 weekend. That's why I'm normally very happy when he wins, just because of those dances. Fermin, mate. What? Why? What was going on there, mate? What was going through your head? Why? I think my lack of words explains a lot there. Because like, how does that go through your head? And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna pull off that move. Yeah, I'll be grand. No, you weren't, Furman. You had a massive high side. Crash bang wallop, mate. It wasn't fun. I think we can all agree nobody wants this championship because Oyagura injured and he did finish ninth. He had a really good comeback, but bad qualifying means he wasn't able to get maximum points. Sergio Garcia had a howler. Although it was said that it was a mental thing due to being snubbed for MotoGP, which I do understand, but Sergio, please come back. Please. Like, I'm suffering. And then Fermin Alligator has just had like multiple howlers over the last weekends, and I don't understand what's going on. Like, what are you doing? I don't even know genuinely who'll take this championship at this point. And Aaron Kenna, actually, we mentioned nothing about him. Had a really bad start and just clashed with someone else, and I was like, oh God, he's gone down the order. And then the next thing he's down. What happened? Aaron. It was actually quite devastating. I was like, what? But apart from that, the wheel tool racing was actually quite good, and I'm happy with the overall podium.
The other championship contender that clearly is among those not wanting to win the championship is Joe Roberts as well, who also crashed out on the last lap. It was an absolute mess, and it summarizes Moto2 this year so much, I think, just in the fact that you have no idea what's going to go on at the front. And also, one other person that crashed out that I wanted to mention, just because it was another high side, is Izan Guevara. And I don't know if it was because of the mixed conditions, but I'm just going to use this opportunity to say that I really want Moto2 and Moto3 warm up to come back. If you follow me on Twitter, I tweet it every single week, but it just frustrates me, especially in these mixed conditions. I think that safety should be paramount and we should have warm up. So let's move on to MotoGP, because while my favourites, Canet and Aldeguer, did crash out, MotoGP was just wholesome, for me anyway. Not if you're an Aprilia fan. But let's start with the sprint, because Pedro Acosta finally picked up his form again and got P3. Jorge Martin was in P2, but winning the sprint in absolutely dominant fashion was Marc Marquez. He took his first sprint win and gave us a sneak preview into what Sunday would look like.
It was alright. I think most of the actual different things, like Pedro Acosta regaining his form, was just extremely overshadowed by Mark's sprint win, and then everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's going to get his first win in 1,000 days," and I was like, "Hello, yes, but like Pedro Acosta is right there." But oh my God, my voice. But yeah, it was. Apart from that, pretty good sprint. It definitely, in my opinion, wasn't as entertaining as the MotoGP race. But just to mention, Aleix Espargaro didn't even finish a lap. I don't think he even finished a turn. He was like down in like the first like 5 turns. I was like, oh, okay. Aprilia had that absolute howler just all weekend. Like, they were nowhere. The pace was just non-existent. It was quite depressing to look at. Frankie Morbidelli went down. I think I missed that one because I'm unsure where he went down, but just he was fighting, he was doing quite well, and the next thing he was down. Nowhere to be seen. Johan Zarco actually had a pretty solid last 2 weekends, really, and then just dropped like a stone in the sprint, and it was sad. Fabio Quartararo, I want to mention. sped through the field, right? He was like at the back, and then next thing you know, he was 8th. Like, he got a point out of that. But like in the race, just didn't really come to fruition. He was just gone. There was no sign of him. Yeah, Pedro across the podium. I'm quite happy over that.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit underwhelming, the sprint race. I feel like the only action sort of came from Bagnaia struggling, which it still brought some good action. Obviously, it was a bit sort of nostalgic almost seeing Quartararo actually being able to fight Bagnaia. Um, still, still like clear to see that the Yamaha still has a bit of development to go with how much they were getting just absolutely rinsed down the straights by the Ducatis. But yeah, I thought it was a decent sprint race.
So let's talk about the Grand Prix, because the podium was the exact same, and Marc Marquez took his first Grand Prix victory in 1,043 days. And if you're watching on YouTube, you would have already seen in the chat that Kelly was 13 years old the last time that Marc Marquez won, which made me feel extremely, extremely old. And I know that's exactly what Poz is going for. So thanks for that, Poz. I do want to give you guys both a question, and that is, do you think that the racing incident, which was declared a racing incident by the FIM stewards, was a racing incident, the one between Alex Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia?
For sure. Yeah, I really don't think there was any more boat riders could have done. It was just a clash that was definitely avoidable before, but once they were stuck in that predicament, neither of them could have done anything. So it was horrendous, definitely to see. But by the looks of it, I think from what I know, boat riders are okay. Alex Marquez is walking, and to my knowledge, Pecco Bagnaia was declared okay by the medical centre. So definitely horrendous to watch, but yeah, boat riders okay. Um Horrible, horrible crash to watch. I screamed out of nowhere, and my brother was like, What's happened?" I was like, he's under the bike." Yeah, definitely horrifying, but neither rider could have done anything. It was just total racing incident, and I've seen people blame it was Pecco's fault, it was Alex's fault, it was the bike's fault, mate. Neither riders had could have done anything, and it's so annoying to watch other people blame riders for something that they couldn't avoid. It's just so it's like, get over yourself, please. Going on from that, Mark's first win in, I believe, 1,043 days, if I'm not wrong. Boom! I'm so smart. Anyway, I was happy. I was really happy because I'm a Marquez fan. Kate's a Marquez fan. We were like besties at moments in time. It was it was just so nice to see. It really, really was. Um, I definitely didn't expect it coming into this weekend because if you look at my predictions, no faith in Marquez whatsoever due to last results crashing out from the lead. But yeah, I think I should have had a little bit more faith. Pedro across the podium as well, like, that's pretty good. No? He's definitely regained his form after just howler. Can you even say a howler? It was just bad. He was nowhere. He was like his teammate in terms of pace. They were like in the same range. But apart from that, race was really good, completely entertained, and now Jorge Martin has a proper jump in the championship.
Yeah, I also think it was a racing incident between Bagnaia and Alex Marquez. I felt it was kind of similar to the move that Fermin Aldeguer pulled on Dennis Onchu in the Moto2 race, which was also deemed a racing incident. Just sort of both riders going for the same piece of tarmac. Probably could have been avoided, but in the end, that's just sort of how racing goes. Only other thing I really wanted to bring up was the fact that in every race this weekend, we had a rookie on the podium. Obviously, Luca Lanetta in Moto 2, Dennis Onchu in Moto 2, Luca Lanetta in Moto 3, Dennis Onchu in Moto 2, and Pedro Costa in both the sprint and the main race. So it's good to see the rookies doing well.
And we shouted out Quartararo for the sprint. I want to shout out Alex Rins for the Grand Prix because he gained a whole bunch of places as well. And It makes me a little bit excited for Yamaha, I suppose, but only time will tell if this kind of consistency keeps up or if it was just a one-off weekend for them. So, moving on to our predictions for the San Marino Grand Prix, which is coming up this weekend. We'll start with my predictions for Moto 3. In P3, I've gone for Rueda. In P2, I've gone Via. And in first place, I've gone for David Alonso with Ortola as a reserve. How about you, Pos?
Yeah, I've gone sort of similar to what I've gone the whole of this year, which doesn't really surprise anyone. David Alonso I've put to win just because, number one, it's David Alonso. It's kind of hard to bet against him to do well. And also, he won the race here last year. It was one of the 4 that he won in his rookie season. So I feel like he'll be quite strong. Yes, hi, Atlas. Um, in P2, I've put Colin Via just because he's been strong lately. Hasn't really looked like he could be in race winning contention, like out and out. But I still feel like he'll do well. And P3, sort of a late inclusion. I've put Jose Antonio Rueda because I may have forgotten about him when I was doing these. Off the back of a first race win, he'll probably be pushing to try and make it too. And as my reserve, I've gone Ivan Ortola just because he's always sort of there or thereabouts.
Well, with that last minute change up, you have matched both myself and Kelly because Kelly has also gone Ortola as a reserve, Rueda as P3, Via P2, and Alonso in P1. So that's quite funny.
In
Do
that case, I'm going to switch Rueda to P2 and Via to P3 just to be a little bit different.
Man, you're making me change up this spreadsheet on the go. There we go. Change is updated. For Moto 2, Kelly has gone for Vietti as her reserve, Ogura as P3, Lopez P2, and Dixon P1. What have you gone with?
I have gone very based off of sort of past results in this track. I've gone Alonso Lopez to win, presuming he doesn't cook his tires, which I know is a big if. But he won his first race at this track in 2022. I think he finished second or third last year, so he's obviously quite good at this track, and I think he'll do well. Second, I've gone Celestino Vietti just because I feel like it's probably the safest pick. Being a VR46 Academy member, having done probably hundreds of thousands of laps of Mazzano, feel like he'll be right up there. I've gone Jake Dixon in P3 because I think the commentator said he's on a 4 race podium streak, looking extremely strong lately, so I feel like he'll be up there. And now that he's got a podium, it's sort of playing in my brain that I can have him up here. As my reserve, I've gone Dennis Onchu.
Well, you may have him as your reserve, but I have him in P3 on the podium. Dennis Onchu. I think he's just been so strong. And given the fact that he's just come back from injury, I do think he's only going to be stronger, which is quite exciting. And look at me out fangirling the Onchu fan. It's something I seem to be doing well. First it was KTM, now it's Onchu. In P2, I've gone with Alonso Lopez, much the same reasoning as you. And in P1, I've gone for Vietti. I do have Arbolino as a reserve, just because I don't quite trust him enough yet to stand on the podium consistently. My MotoGP sprint predictions: in P3, I've gone for Marc Marquez. In P2, I've gone for Pecco Bagnaia. And in P1, I've gone for Jorge Martin. I was really toying up between Pecco and Martin just because Pecco, VR46, this is their back garden. But I think that Jorge's just too good in the sprints. Kelly has gone for Marc Marquez in P3, Martin in P2, and she has put Pecco in P1. Who have you gone with?
I have sort of heavily based mine off of last year and the last couple of races. In the sprint, I've gone Martin P1, obviously. Did the sprint race and main race double last year, sort of aided by Bangaia's sort of injuries in Catalunya, but I still feel like he'll be super strong. Gone Marc Marquez in second. Just have the feeling that he'll sort of back up the first race win with another couple of strong results. And in P3 I've gone Enea Bastianini just because again he's one that's always sort of been good at this track. And as my reserve I've gone Pekka Bagnaia just because I still don't fully trust him to be fighting for mainly the win in sprint races just yet.
Which brings us nicely on to the Grand Prix. We'll start with Kelly, who has put Mark in as a reserve. She's gone Jorge Martin in P3, Enea Bastianini in P2, and Pecco Bagnaia in P1. For me, I've just gone with Enea in P3, Jorge Martin in P2, and Pecco in P1. I think I just keep coming back to the fact that he was injured last year and still put it, on the podium. So I think he's just going to be so hard to beat. I realise I didn't say my reserve for the sprint, but it's the same for both days, and it's Brad Binder.
Yeah, I've gone essentially the same in the races I have for the sprint. Gone Martin to do another sprint race and main race double. Marc Marquez in second. I've put Pecco Bagnaia to jump above Bastianini in the main race, and Bastianini is my reserve, obviously.
And that is us for the week. Let us know what your predictions are. Let us know if you thought that incident between Bagnaia and Alex Marquez was not really a racing incident. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this because it seriously helps our channel grow and we love bringing you this content. Have a great week and we'll talk to you after San Marino.